past regent, Patricia J. We would like to welcome our prospective members that are here this evening, and we would like to welcome our past regents, Norma Beveridge, Judy Heitzenreiter, Donna Anderson, and Barb Elkin. And all of you are wonderful members, a very heartfelt welcome. The laminated rituals that you'll see laying on your seats, I collect these after each meeting. They're there for the people who have forgotten their books or for our guests that decide to stay. At this time, I'm going to ask Martha Jo if she would please ask for the blessing.
Please bow your heads. We thank you, Lord, for all things that nourish and sustain our lives. We thank you for the food, for our hearts and minds, for those gifts of life which enable our spirits to grow stronger and more robust. And now we ask your blessing upon this food for our bodies and upon us as we try to do your will.
Start with Pat Blake's table back there. If everyone will please just help themselves. Again, this is self-help and self-help.
Our program tonight is presented by Patricia Blake, military nurse, on military nurses. Pat was our regent from 1980 to 1983. She is a mother, one of our past regents, Barb Elkin, also the mother of Chaplain Martha Jo Rupert, and grandmother to members of Alida and Patricia Elkin and Augusta Gear. Pat has created a family of DR members, and now she's going to tell us all about her mother, who was
I want to thank you for having me, and I'm so anxious to have you meet my mother. This all started when a friend of mine in Florida, we were both working on different committees, and it was the 100th anniversary of the World War I coming up, and what could we do? And Madeline said, well, Pat, you have your mother's diary. Maybe you can come up with something in that. This is a little diary that has this much for this year, this much, you know, you've seen them. Mm-hmm. So the writing is very, very small, but anyway, out of this came this story. And I'll tell you, the mother was born and get her established on December the 26th in 1891. And she was the first child of her parents. She was in Buffalo Township in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I have to remember that because if I'm some other stuff. Anyway, she was an extremely intelligent girl, and so she was sent to Teachers Preparatory School in North Washington, Pennsylvania. And by being a teacher, she could achieve being accepted to as a student nurse in Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh. Okay, now we have mother in Pittsburgh at the Allegheny General Hospital. Well, she graduated from there in 1914, and at that time, I'm going to have to look at my notes every now and again. At that time, war broke out in Europe. And I thought, how am I going to get to the war breaking out? Here I got her in Pittsburgh. And my son-in-law brought in the newspaper one day, the Bangor Daily News. It said, rumors plagued Maine at the start of World War I. And there it was. The news article was, war had broken out in Europe. No one could believe the sudden explosion of violence resulting from old animosities and tangled treaties. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Germany backed Austria. Russia marched to protect Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia and France, and German armies invaded France and Belgium. Then Britain declared war on Germany, and all this happened in late July and early August in 1914. The U.S. declared war on Germany in 1914. Well, the Allegheny General Hospital of Pittsburgh, PA, volunteered its services to the U.S. government for any purpose that the Department of War would deem necessary. The offer was accepted and the entire medical staff was requested to organize a Red Cross hospital unit for citizens.
Well,
So Mother didn't have a birth certificate. All she had was the entry in the family Bible. So her father had to go before a notary and swear that she had been born, yes, December 26th, 1891, and yes, of course, her parents were Americans. So that was taken care of. Well, they became Red Cross nurses, and this is a picture of the whole group that was going from Allegheny General. You can see they're all in uniform. I have no idea where this picture was taken. I know it's a formal, it's formal, and they all have on their uniforms their little leather gloves, all ready to go. And see if you can pick out Mother. Alita, do you know who Mother is?
Quiz.
The lady standing in the middle, I think she's standing,
How old would she have been?
she was 24. And she was one of the youngest ones, 23, 24. All right, the one in the middle, I think is Miss Mansell, who was the directress of this group. And the nurse,
The eyes.
they were given physical exams for defects that would render them unsuitable for military nursing. Then we go to 1917, 1918. They received their orders and went by train to Ellis Island for assignments. We had a lot of fun going through this and getting them put together to, Barbara, would you like to take that one? You can see this, the United States of America War Department and her identity. Mother was to work at Harlem Hospital from October the 14th, 1917 until February the 1st, 1918. Then, when she was put in charge of the operating room at Park Hospital, they received their orders. On February 21st, 1918, she received Red Cross orders to report to 120 Madison Avenue that evening. And they always had a trunk. Anyway, she was the first to arrive and the only one in a ward of 21 beds. Well, the next day, she decided she'd walk over to Harlem Hospital and renew old friendships. And when she got back, there were 10 more nurses there, and the rest were still in camps and were delayed. Well, her entries from March the 16th to the 21st were church, movies, and walking. And on the 21st of March, 1918, the equipment arrived and had to be marked and packed and then shipped to Hoboken, New Jersey to Pier 54. And this was, they were to go to Pier 54 and get their passport, and this was to be their passport. Which is very, not at all like the passports of today. Beg pardon? Was that color? Yes, the red, yes. I still have, it's still in the photograph of. March the 22nd, 1918, went out for the day. When they returned, their trunks were gone. On May 22nd, orders received, and no one was here to kiss her goodbye. Mother writes, on Palm Sunday, March 24th, this a.m. to church around the corner, to Seville for breakfast. 9:30 left 120 Madison in groups of 2 or 3 to Pier 54 on board the Mauretania. And she talks about who she's rooming with and who she would eat with. And she met somebody that had been born in Freeport. A band concert in the afternoon and the evening. Engine started to chug at 9:20. Very sleepy. To bed. So they went to Hoboken, New Jersey to Pier 54 the next day. And this was the ship they were to go on. A very fast, modern liner that goes from Southampton to Hoboken, or to New York, keep that ship going. There had to be somebody there to feed those people. And along with that, there's a war on. I don't know how all this came about. It makes me really think a lot. She says, and this is what the ship looked like when they got on. It was camouflaged. So the submarines wouldn't be able to find it or see it, and also it was very rough at sea. So they were counting on that too. And I misconstrued something. I need another diary.
It's right here, Mom. Two of them came together over here.
Oh. Okay, thank you. I thought that was heavy. On March the 26th, she writes, there are 5,000 troops on this ship, besides hospital corpsmen, officers, and nurses. Quite a shipload. We are wearing our life preservers all the time and trying to keep from feeling sick. On deck all of the time. There now. This is the first troop ship not to be convoyed over. We will be met by a British convoy at the war zone, alone now. I think it was a little frightening.
Yeah.
You all saw this in England.
Okay.
They were headed toward England, and here's the ship. Honestly, when you get into her photograph album, the ship was a very famous liner, and they continued. Here's the Cunard Line, Mauritania, March 24th, 1918. There's menus in here. They still continued on the same way they had always been. I mean, I just can't believe this. We're at war, and there's the menu for the day. I just think it's blows my mind, because I've been on a few cruises, and there's a lot there. And they were so crowded that the enlisted men were in hammocks. So when they have a lifeboat drill, and everybody is assigned a lifeboat, and you come up when that signal goes, and you get your life jacket, and you run up to the boat that you're supposed to be on. Well, here are these enlisted men in these nets and these hammocks, and it detained that a lot, and they had quite a time with it. But everything went well, almost well. One young man died of pneumonia, and he was buried at sea. But other than that, everything went pretty much as ordered. Now we're off, they're coming up off England. And of course this is Wales, and they're coming in here to Liverpool. March the 30th, sick again, I am a poor sailor, expecting a convoy tonight and will dock on Sunday. On March the 31st, she writes, got up early, out on the deck to see the sunrise, and saw a destroyer and two more on the horizon. And they kept with us all day. Last night we slept fully dressed, and will do so tonight. Tomorrow we expect to be in Liverpool, England, and be in solid ground, and will I ever be glad? And now they are being convoyed. Well, not one sub was sighted, but 3 days before, 2 ships were torpedoed. Not sunk or anyone lost, but they had been torpedoed. On the April 2nd, the convoy watched until the mouth of the Liverpool harbor, and the harbor master was on board. On April the 3rd, she says, finally got off the ship. Off the ship at 9 a.m., Liverpool, England, and then to the train station to Southampton, traveling first class. Nurses were to travel first class. Off the train at 4:30 p.m. and quartered at the Great Western Hotel. In the afternoon, they went to a little tea room, and the pianist played, Hail, Hail, the gang's all here. April the 4th was the anniversary of the declaration of war, and April the 5th, Southampton. Left the hotel at 2:45, marched to the docks to board the hospital ship Guildford Castle. And that's in this first part of the photograph album. I was so lucky to have Mother's photograph album to refer to. This ship right here. And again, it was, they had berths and they had dining room, they had menus. It was still seemed to be business as usual, yet not. Yeah, and this ship would go over to Le Havre, France, and pick up the wounded and bring them back to England. So then it was an overnight trip, and they had a convoy both ways. They got off the ship in Le Havre at 9 a.m. where the wounded were being brought by train and ambulance. And as they got off the ship, the wounded were being brought on. They stayed at a hotel and filled out papers, and then to Paris by rail. I put a little note on the side and I had to read it. Mother talks about the scenery and Mass at Notre Dame. That was when they went on to Paris. Everything they did in France, they had to go through Paris, which is about here. And their hospital was out in here, close to the German line, and where I think the war was about 30 miles away from them. Okay, now be ready at 10:45 a.m. to the station in army trucks and boarded a train at 12:50 p.m. and arrived in Paris at 11 p.m. to the Regina Hotel. On April the 9th, by U.S. Army trucks to the train station, and she remarks that the buildings were sandbagged. They boarded a train at 8:15 p.m., and this is an interesting part, that will leave them at 4 a.m., when another train will pick them up at 5:30 for a 1-hour ride, third-class coach, to the hospital. And this is the hospital. It was recently constructed. It was all cement. Okay, let me get down to that. Oh yes, equipped with steam heat, electric lights, bathtubs, elevators, good kitchens and mess halls. Natural hot water from nearby mineral springs dating back before the conquest of Gaul by Caesar. This area where the hospital was, and this area still is a vacation spot for the French with this hot water. Next, and this was the crew. This picture was taken by the Signal Corps, and maybe you can pick up Mother there. But she's one of the nurses.
Gives you a little bit of help.
Mother's about the third one in. She always seemed to be about the third one in. Right, yes. Does it look like anyone in the family? Anyone in the family?
If you look at the eyes. I noticed that on that one picture, the eye. No. They are. I said, was that one?
The billets for the nurses. This says American Red Cross called for nurses. And we couldn't read that until we enlarged that picture. There's a lot of things we couldn't identify until we enlarged it and got a good look and said, oh, that's what that says. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it was to catch rainwater. She does say once that they caught rainwater and heated it and to wash their hair. Because I suppose that mineral water wouldn't be too good. So that was the billets, and this is Mother standing at the door to hers. You can tell who she is because I just told you.
Did she leave all these pictures and stuff, or, you know, did she leave all these pictures like to you, or did you just have them find them all,
Her
or?
photograph album.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all this stuff,
She just, and you know, every one of our family we took the kids to Germany to visit their uncle. And I have this great, went to a salt mine and all that sort of thing, do you remember that? And I have this great photograph, or album, scrapbook, and I noticed that she does it. Do you do it, Barbara?
Now mine are in shoe boxes, but yeah.
Oh, she has
Make it out of scrapbook. No, I'm not a scrapbooker, but.
We all seem to inherit that gene. Mother would, on a rainy day, she would sit us down on the floor in the dining room, a certain area there, with some scissors and a couple magazines and a scrapbook, and we would cut out pictures and paste them in. And that was our entertainment for that day. We were out of her hair. And busy doing things, busy. Well, the first days there, we're organizing the staff, the physicians and nurses, and Mother was to be scrub nurse for Dr. King. And this is Dr. King. And this is Mother. And we didn't know that till we enlarged the picture. And she's administering anesthesia, which is probably drop ether. And this is her, this is what she wore in the OR.
Oh my gosh.
Somehow like that. Not too good, but anyway, your hair's covered and so you're not dropping stuff in the patient. But I was so surprised, I really didn't identify that until Mrs. Hyland at the Historical Society said, oh, that's her hat from when she was on duty. So it took somebody else to identify this. So then I asked him if I could borrow it back. So we could have it for this presentation. I just, there's another picture here that I think is great and has a pretty good story. This is Mother in an ambulance, and after I told this one time up in Maine, this friend of mine came and said, Pat, my uncle drove those ambulances in France. And he said that they came in boxes and crates and they had to put them together after they got there. Now I imagine the intricate little parts were all right, but like the wheels and whatnot. And you notice there aren't any headlights. There's a couple lanterns here, no headlights. And it just, I think it's a good story. It was the American Field Service. And if anybody remembers, I think some of you teachers will, American Field Service, the exchange students that came. And it was these guys that started that. And I don't know, does it still there? Do we still have American Field Service? No. As a matter of fact, I just shipped a fruitcake to Switzerland. They like our fruitcakes. Well, on April the 1st, she says that they made dressings. Improvise was their middle name. They folded linen, made rubber aprons, pads, etc., and also dressings for the OR. On April the 12th through September, the hospital operated more as a receiving hospital. There was an appendectomy, various injuries, etc. The cavalry was stationed there. Doctors, nurses, and corpsmen, along with ambulances, were sent to the front and returned. The hospital was located 30 miles from the front. There was one time that they thought they may have to evacuate, but they didn't. I don't think you need to see that. Or need to think of Allegheny General Hospital. Graduate, right? Pitt, yeah, well, excuse me.
She did clinicals at
Her clinical was in Allegheny Journal. She's a secretary in the nursing department at Allegheny General, University of Pittsburgh. And so she would see Alita every now and again. So that made it nice. We had that contact. And then one time, Elmer and Joyce Reed were down at the Allegheny General Hospital, and there was some display. And Joyce looked at Elmer and said, "That looks like Pat's mother." So she came back and described all this to me in the picture and whatnot, which of course we have a copy. And I said, "Yeah, sure enough, that was Mom." So then I got in touch with them, And they wanted to know if I knew the names of all the. Fortunately, one of the pictures that we have, it was a husband of one of her classmates sent it to her after his wife died. And on the back of that picture, everybody's name was written.
That's wonderful.
So I could send that to them, and they were very happy with that. Now I'm trying to get Alita to go see what else they know about Unit L over in France. Well, on April 18th, the mail from Madison Avenue arrived, and that wasn't bad. That was March 25th to April 18th to have your mail coming across the ocean. And on the 22nd was her bath day, and they are at a premium. On the 23rd, went to a clearing station in squads of 7 for 10 to 14 days. I have no idea what that means unless it was just a rest period. On May the 5th, 1 year ago, Unit L took the Pledge of Allegiance at Allegheny General Hospital. On May the 6th through the 20th, many surgeries. On the 23rd, many ill from Le Grippe. And I went online to find out about Spanish influenza, and this is how they called it at first. It was Le Grippe, and it ended up it was the Spanish influenza. On the 27th, walked out to see an airplane that had fallen about 2 kilometers away, and it was a Sped, a light machine made for speed and chase. And a man that was in the World War I that listened to me one time told me about these small planes. Memorandum from May, big German offensive, Allied lines being pushed back, all mail, paper, etc. being held up. We may evacuate shortly. June the 1st, train service to Paris discontinued. All are being used to transport troops and ammunition. On the 4th and the 6th, more doctors and nurses to the front. And on the 10th, U-boats over on the coast of the United States sunk 9 small boats. New York is in darkness. And on the 12th, admitted 21 patients with influenza, epidemic form. The Americans were victorious at the Battle of Belaise on the 13th, and on the 27th, many smoky troops sick with pneumonia. And I think these were the Negro, the Black Americans, what do we call?
African American.
African Americans. And I can understand this because Mother wouldn't be in connection too much with Negro troops, and anyway, they were starting to come in. And they got sick, they got this so quickly, much faster than the other ones. On the 28th, she saw her first military funeral. And on July the 2nd, so many sick colored chaps, pneumonia, and dying. On the 5th, military funerals, very numerous now. 6 colored men died, and 4 transferred to base for transfer back to the U.S. On the 6th, this is to be the Negro section from now on. On the 8th, it was interesting to watch the colored officers. And the 14th, well, it is. We go on 12-hour night duty for 2 weeks. It's been on night duty, and it was busy. August the 1st at 10:15, an alert was called and lights dimmed. Nothing happened. 3 of us went up on top of the hill to look for Zeps, and I think she means Zeppelins, but saw nothing but stars. On the 8th, hand grenade cases brought in today, beds down the hall. On the 10th, 8 lieutenants now, 5 black and 3 white, very busy on the floor. And on the 12th, the 92nd moved out today. We're coming up to the end of the war. On the 13th, today we hear an Army Corps is moving in and Bourbon will be their headquarters. On the 17th, one of the troops came in, kicked by a mule, jaw fractured. Now I have 5 troop L patients. That war started on horseback and ended in the air. Because that was the last time they used horses in war, and from then on it was were taken to the air, and they started those first little funny looking airplanes. I just thought that was a good way to say it. It started on horseback and ended in the air. The cavalry is to be ready to move, toute suite, and that's her little bit of French. On the 21st, our mess enlarged to accommodate officers of Army Corps Number 6, and the 78th Division is on his way in. And this is a lot of the men moving and coming. On the 24th, Captain Elkins, who is very prominent, he was from, and I remember him, he wrote this little booklet, which I will read some of the things out of it for you. He was the secretary of Western Pennsylvania Historical Society, and he writes about the Unit L, Camp Hospital 21, World War I. So Captain Elkins left today to do lab work for 2 weeks. On the 26th, much work, many new patients from the 78th Division. And on then her memorandum for that month is Major General Ballou, colored from all over the states, 92nd Division, Major General McCrae, whites from Camp Dix, New Jersey, the 78th Division. September the 4th, things are much quieter now at the hospital. We are having a breathing spell, but on duty on the 6th. 6th floor, 5 nurses sent to base hospital 20, indefinite duty. She never got sent, she was lucky. And on the 12th, she had a cold that she thought was just couldn't be matched. And on September the 13th, in big letters, she wrote, flu epidemic. Big drive on, Americans, Rainbow Division, 110th Infantry, and 10th Squadron of the 2nd Cavalry. 3 doctors sent away, only temporary, very busy, epidemic of influenza throughout the troops. On the 14th, 4 boys and 2 ambulances taken away. And on the 15th, troops coming in very fast. Some of our 3rd Cavalry died, and seems like losing some of the family. So sad. And on the 14th, boys still flowing in, and gee, but I feel rotten. On the 17th, she writes, still more boys and losing more. The epidemic is covering the AEF, and we are losing many. And the AEF stands for the American Expeditionary Forces, and that's what this group we're a part of, the American Expeditionary Forces. And it says on one of these, things around, yeah, that one. We'll say that right around Mother's nose. American Expeditionary. And I didn't know that until some man in the audience told me about it. And it just, oh dear. Then I lose my place. All right, here we go. The boys are still flowing in, and gee, but I feel rotten. Okay, I told you that. 1 ambulance and 2 boys back, needed 2. Troops still coming in sick. And on the 20th, Captain Bailey's, who must have been very important in the hospital, was sick. She was better. The other ambulance is home, nothing new, more sick, and a funeral every day. On the 22nd, I have never been in an epidemic before, and believe me, this is one, really. Beds in double rows up the halls, and 3 or 4 dying every day of Spanish influenza. And on the 23rd, she says, the question is will the captain live until morning? Miss Mansell, who is their directress of nursing, Major King, her surgeon, Scott, Lease, Kemp, and 5 of the corpsmen are down, and Scott, Lease, and Kemp are nurses. On the 25th, more flu, and on the 26th, nothing but more flu. And this is actually what she wrote. And last night, Captain Bayless had his crisis, and tonight we think he will get well. Lieutenant Stalker is seriously ill, and I am relieving tonight. Lieutenant Stalker was a dentist. On the 29th, big gains on the war front. And on the 30th, the last day of the month, and we think the epidemic is dying out. Captain B is on the road to recovery. Major is up. Miss Mansell is better. The memorandum for September 1918, I feel that I have learned some very bitter lessons this month, also some very good ones. After all, we all must live before we realize no matter what we hear or read. Things are much quieter. We hope the worst is over. Lieutenant Stalker died this morning. The funeral was this evening, just as sunset. It was beautiful. Our whole personnel marched, and the services were most impressive. Dr. King said a Frenchman's femur with the two 8-penny nails. Some national disturbance. On October the 8th, we were looking for warmer quarters. On October the 13th, Dr. King and 3 others went to help operate on German prisoners. They returned October 30th. This is a picture of the cemetery right there at the hospital. And it's pretty well,
Where's the cemetery at?
right at the hospital.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
No, we're in France.
Oh,
Turkey signed the armistice. So long war. 1 year ago, the 3rd U.S. Cavalry arrived in Liverpool. November the 11th, the war is over and all the town is decorated, the people laughing and such kissing. The French treated and everything was free tonight. On November the 12th, Marge and I made fudge just to set the world right again. On November the 21st, the 29th Division in town and headquarters were moved to the Grand Hotel. November 23rd, emergency appendectomy at 11:30 p.m. And she says on November the 26th, now that the war is over, it seems so long until we go home. But on the 27th, they had 6 surgeries. And on December the 1st, an emergency appendectomy, very bad. On December 19th, her Christmas package arrived. Her mom was very good about getting a package off to her. And on the 22nd, she decorated a tree. Mother took advantage of her time off traveling by train all over France. This is her identity card, and it was good from December the 5th through to December the 21st. So she went through Paris, of course, Nice, Lyon, and Dijon. On March the 19th, there was some talk about the 29th Division moving into a new area, having been transferred from the 5th to the 8th Army Corps. If they do move, I wonder what will happen to us. The closing of Unit L. On April the 14th, the 7th and 6th floor were moved to the 4th floor today, and the 5th floor was down to the 3rd floor. On April 20th, the last patient was discharged, and now it's time to close Unit L and head for home. Folded linen all morning, that's what we do so well, and packed all morning. On April the 29th, our trunks are being marked CN21, and now we know that Unit L is really dead. Well, they thought, well, on May the 1st we'll get going, but May the 1st happens to be Labor Day in France, so there wasn't any transportation. So they had to sit around and wait until the next day, and on May the 2nd they leave Camp Hospital 21 for Bon-le-Bain. On May the 4th, through Paris to Karnak on the Britain coast, quite a trip. And you can see it would be, it's quite a distance. And the trains weren't that fast, I guess. But time was spent enjoying the coast. Mother would enjoy that very much. You want me to quit?
I really don't. I want to hear what happened. We're going to have to wrap up, and we've got to get on with. We have a lot of voting to do.
Okay, I'm sorry.
On
I
a
thought
ship
that
like this.
which certainly wasn't anything like the ship they went over
wow.
on. And Dr. Elkin writes that they all went to Marseille, which is all the way down here, and they were on an old ship, and they just got on when they ran out of coal, and they went into Algeria to get coal, and the coalers were on strike. So that took 4 days, and then they finally got back to New York City, and the guys were sick. Well, that was a friend of the family that Mother got to know in France. And they stayed close. This is a wedding invitation. It's all in French. And she writes in the back of it, "Dear friend, I was awaiting news of your visit." So it's just Madame Petit took her English very seriously. and learned very well. And these are Mother and my pins. Mother and I are both American Red Cross nurses, and Mother's number is 2432-9432, and mine is 221607. They're still exactly alike. This is Mom's and this is mine. And God bless Genevieve. She would say, I knew your mother. I used to pump gas for you. And she brought Mother's obituary to me today that she had cut out of the paper. And most of the granddaughters are. My daughters are. Liz will be state regent in Maine next year. And it goes down through. We're doing pretty well. I think we still have this one. Her daughter's a daughter, but her mother isn't a daughter. And it's